So the first thing that I would say that you should do if you are looking at a syndication, like a specific syndication, like say you're thinking maybe you want to get involved in a multifamily development in Jacksonville, because I'm in recently, so now I have Jacksonville on the brain, because they were talking about Jacksonville a lot. So you can do a basic market litmus test that basically says some things that you're probably familiar with, even if you don't, well, I'm sure you are, but that one is probably familiar with, even if you don't necessarily have it down to a formula. You know, ask yourself, is the population growing? Why is it growing? Who is coming? Are job opportunities expanding, and in what sectors? Because of course, an IT population has the potential to be a very different population than a hospitality population, who may be more likely to rent if you're looking at multifamily, for example. And then, of course, the third that's pretty common is the local economy on an upward trajectory? And it's really important at that point to get very granular, not to just say the Southeast is looking good. It's nice to say the Southeast is looking good, or Florida is looking good, or even Central Florida is looking good, or Northern Florida. But you really want to, in the example of Jacksonville, for example, you would really want to kind of dive in and say, okay, I want to see what's making all these people talk about Jacksonville, and whether they're all repeating the same things that they're saying to each other, or whether there's really some solid ground for what they're saying. And then based on that, you can make a decision about whether or not you want to put money with that individual.
So how can I verify, all those things people are saying?
Okay. So I would say in two different ways. If it were me, instead of starting with a specific project, what I would do is I would just do some basic research. I would go on the Census Bureau. I would just do some basic Googling, look up some news coverage and see who's coming. Look at the Chamber of Commerce. Everybody in the world has an IT corridor now. I think that my, tiny northwestern Georgia neighboring town, theoretically has an IT corridor at this point. So it's not enough. You got to find out who's in the IT corridor, or if it's just zoned that way. So you want to look and see, is the population growing? If it's not, you do want to find out why, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's a terrible thing. But generally, you'd want it to be growing. Then figure out who's coming to the area. And, after you've done that, I like medical communities. I'm a big fan of Birmingham because they've got that big growing hospital there. But, there are a lot of places, Detroit, there are plenty of places that have things like that. But, you kind of look at where the job opportunities are, and then start thinking about who's moving there and what do they want. If you're going to, Washington, D.C. because you want to cater to new Amazon employees, that's going to be a very different population than if you're going to go to, I don't know, let's do Birmingham. There's a very large population renting there than if you're going to Birmingham.